Good morning. Thank you for your interest in our HBCUish by NeuroNurture Biddy and Buddy program, specifically the Navigators class for ages 9 to 17 months. I am Mrs. Jennifer Henry, and I am the founder and creator of the NeuroNurture curriculum and the HBCUish by NeuroNurture program series. And along with me today is the amazing guide for the Biddy and Buddy program, Mrs. D. Mrs. D is a gift to us all, and she is going to guide you through our demo class. But first, let me allow her to introduce herself, and then we're going to jump into a PowerPoint to help you understand what HBCU-ish by NeuroNurture really is.
Good morning, families. It is a joy and a privilege to be here and to show you all about the Biddy and Buddy Navigators class. I'm Miss D, and I am, as Miss Jennifer said, the virtual guide for the Biddy and Buddy class. And throughout the presentation, Miss Jennifer will show you a little bit more of my background, just to highlight it. I am an educator for the preschool age children for 7+ years. I am a certified postpartum doula, and I am just so excited to show you and demo a class for you today.
Yay, so excited, so excited. All right, let's jump into our PowerPoint, and I'll be able to tell you more about Mrs. D and about the program as well. So let's hop on into this now. This is our spring open house. We are opening up our Biddy and Buddy program to Q2 enrollment. We've already had 1 quarter of Biddy and Buddy programs. So this is the second group, the second cohort, and we will have some students continuing with us from the first cohort. All right, so what is HBCU-ish by NeuroNurture? Well, it all started with a vision, and that was, what if the confidence, connection, and culture of HBCUs was introduced earlier in life? So allow me to introduce you to HBCU-ish by NeuroNurture. We are a safe space where our passion is creating programs and products that are based on internationally proven best practices that loudly celebrate our families. Much like the HBCU-ish experience or the HBCU experience, enrollment in our program unites your family with an interactive virtual village where families find resources, make connections, and share in our monthly wind down parent gatherings. So where did the concept of HBCU-ish come from after the inspiration? Well, there was a Washington Post article from January 25th, 2020, What White Parents Get Wrong About Raising Anti-Racist Kids and How to Get It Right. Well, first, kids are essentialist thinkers, meaning that they assume that if people are on the same are the same on the outside, and they're the same on the inside. So much so that 3-month-old babies can distinguish faces based on race, based on understanding the in-group membership of their own primary caregivers, and then they show preferences towards faces of their own race or in group. And then by the time kids are toddlers, they can actually start to behave in prejudiced ways as well. Shown by a 2005 study by psychologist David Kelly and his colleagues. In another study, developmental psychologist Phyllis Katz, who is the founder of the Institute for Research on Social Problems in Colorado, regularly observed 200 children in a longitudinal study from the ages of 6 months old until the age of 6 years old. And half of the children were Black and half of the children were white. And what she found was that 3-year-olds who were shown photos of children of different races, when asked to choose who they would like to be friends with, 1/3 of Black children chose only photos of other Black children, in contrast to 86% of white children who only chose photos of other children. So, how does this connect to the HBCU-ish impetus, right? I started to think as a neuroscientist, how do you get from a 3-month-old that understands and is pre-verbal, understands race, and has some sort of preference for their own race, to now children at the age of 3 are able to make decisions and choices based on the race association. Whereas in infancy, Black children should show a preference for faces of their own race. By the age of 3, they're overwhelmingly showing a disconnection or a lack of desire to prefer or to interact with children whose faces are of their same race. How do you get there? What are the messages that are being received? What is the learning that's taking place in this mostly pre-verbal period of time? Well, to me, this signaled a very important developmental phase that we have to capitalize on as parents, as educators, as those who want to see our children succeed in a spirit of self-love and confidence. And that is where HBCUish by NeuroNurture's virtual programs are based, in the desire to create a safe and wholesome space where children can not only learn to love themselves, but be immersed in love in the educational process. So HBCUish by NeuroNurture is just one of our programs. Our curriculum of NeuroNurture actually began way back in 2012 with an idea of using science to educate and inform early childhood education and the innovation in that space. I was at NYU. I had a 1-year-old son, and I was looking for programs that I felt like would reflect his culture, would edify and empower him, and steer us away from what a lot of the data showed, as for example, what I just talked to you about before. And I couldn't find anything. So I began to create my own curriculum based on independent study of international philosophies and methodologies that had proven themselves over decades of trial and error to be accurate and effective in not only educating children, but giving them skills for success, like developing a growth mindset. And in my personal studies, I found so many tools and activities that can empower children that I started to write them down, because you can take the scientists out of the lab, but you can't take the lab out of the scientists. So I started to basically test all of these ideas with my son, and started to welcome other mothers into a free play group so that we could kind of talk about all of these things and explore things that I was learning in many different modalities and interactions with people, as well as reading on my own. And by 2014, I realized that I was going to have to open my own school. So I turned half, after many months of begging, convincing, and data, I convinced my husband to allow us to, or allow me to turn half of our 1,200 square foot condo into a preschool. So what you see here is actually my old living room, a dining room, excuse me, and here is my old living room. This is our experience-based math and music area and art area as well. And this was our library and our all-purpose exercise and interaction space. And here we were having a laughter yoga class visitor who was teaching the children the fundamentals of how to reawaken a growth mindset in a developmentally appropriate way. It did grow too large for my home in a short period of time, and we eventually expanded into a building. And the building was heavily influenced by those philosophies that I told you that I started to study. One of them was Reggio Emilia, and this laboratory here, especially made for very small people, ages 3 to 5, was actually based in a lot of research that I had done on the Reggio Emilia philosophy coming out of Italy. And that philosophy is extremely powerful and thoughtful in following children and how they learn, instead of viewing them as empty vessels that we pour into, but really following their motivations and their interests, and supporting it as a guide. Likewise, this room was my first Biddy and Buddy classroom, and this was my first kindergarten, preschool and kindergarten mixed age classroom, heavily influenced by Montessori philosophies, Montessori manipulatives, which do encourage children to use their focus and to use their own motivations to self-guide themselves through education, through learning experiences. Over the years, that was back in 2014, 15, and 16. Over the years, NeuroNurture has garnered some media attention. In 2016, we were featured in the Howard Alumni magazine for our flagship school, Hill Point Preparatory, which was in New Jersey. And then most recently, as we addressed the evolving concerns of parents in this pandemic, we created a pod system amongst a close group of friends, and we were featured in the Washington Post in a few articles, and as well as interviewed on CNN Live. And that was really fun to be able to speak about what opportunities have been presented for families for early childhood education and opportunities to outsmart limitations that are usually present in education in the American educational system. Now, let me talk more about the Biddy and Buddy program and the NeuroNurture curriculum. As I stated, the NeuroNurture curriculum is a multi-methodology program, which is influenced by my research in internationally proven curriculum and philosophies from all around the world, namely Reggio Emilia, which is a town in Italy, Montessori, and Waldorf. Then we also have minor influences from cooperative, and that really presents itself more in the family inclusion and high scope. And that really presents itself more in the in-person brick and mortar programs that we've operated. So in the Montessori influence, you will see manipulative, lots of experience-based learning, lots of self-correcting experiences for children. And then in the Reggio Emilia, we have a pretty robust interaction, even in the virtual space, with parents, so that we can understand the learning experience that children are having, as well as their motivations and their passions, and try to include those in how we create activities and experiences in the program. And then in Waldorf, this influences a lot of our philosophies about the phases of child development. And one of them is the first phase from ages 0 to 7 years, which is the phase of imitation. So a lot of our social emotional learning curriculum that is in the NeuroNurture approach comes from the idea of the Waldorf phase that early childhood learning covers, which is the phase of imitation. Now, in order to translate this heavily experience-based and documentation-based curriculum to a virtual program, it requires feedback from families. So we have multiple ways for you to do that. One is through submitting an entry for the Synapse Spark form that allows you to submit videos, images, and documents that share with us favorites of your child's, milestones in your family, changes or exciting things that are coming up, like a new house or a trip. It requires grace with yourself and others. We are learning new ways of giving compliments. We're learning new ways of giving motivation or following motivation. And therefore, there are going to be errors. There are going to be mistakes. There are going to be learning opportunities that present themselves. And that requires grace with yourself and with others. It requires an investment of time. Each of the programs operates as a visual workshop, an interactive workshop in the live program. And for the on-demand recordings, it is a visual workshop, but just not as interactive. You can still communicate with us via email or the Synapse Spark forms, but it requires an investment of time to watch and engage in preparing these learning spaces for your family. And it requires cooperation with your entire family. And lastly, it requires a community focus. Again, we are more than just an educational space. We are a virtual village. Now, let's get into the intentional learning at play aspect of the NeuroNurture curriculum. So core ideas are presented through play, and we do have the demo class to show you what that would look like. But the core ideas are presented through play because play is a very robust and approachable way for children to learn and for us to lower the stakes of learning until we get our feet of being their primary educational support. We follow children on a personal and developmental level. So where they come in is excellent. And where they will go is determined by that child and by your family and by many factors. And so we try to, follow children on a personal and developmental level. So you'll see that our classes are mixed age, but still grouped by developmental phases. You'll see that there's support provided sometimes on a one-on-one basis, but in many different modalities. Sometimes we're sharing articles. Sometimes we're sharing experiences. Sometimes we are sharing videos, and usually we're also sharing one-on-one exchanges with the parents when they have specific questions for their family as well. And then we support the whole family with our curriculum and programs. As mentioned before, a massive component of all of our NeuroNurture programs, including Biddy and Buddy, are access to us for parenting support, questions, as well as us doing research to help you find information for things that you're not sure about, or maybe we have to learn about as well. So we support you with the wind downs that occur monthly. We also support you with being accessible through email, text, and calls. And then we support the family with our curriculum, which is presented through games and bonding experiences. Then our curriculum is also accessible to children and multiple learning styles. So, excuse me, no matter what your child comes into class, we view them as a unique and individual person and learner, and we approach learning in that way. It is unique and it is individualized as much as we can and as much as we can support. And that all depends on the amount of feedback and interaction that you allow us to have with your family. And lastly, we are noisy when needed. We're very hands on and we are engaging because we believe that there is no separation between fun and facts. There is no separation between love and learning. It all goes together and it all must look like the things that our children have come to understand as fun, which is playing. Now, the components of the NeuroNurture curriculum are number sense and math reasoning, number recognition, daily applications and integrations, literacy foundations such as phonics, letter shape, word-rich environment building, where we have letters and experience opportunities around your home through the materials that come in the Biddy Brain Box every quarter. We have bilingual explorations, some stories, colors, experiences happen in Spanish in our classes. And increasingly so as you go higher in the Biddy and Buddy program and get closer to the virtual preschool experience. Excuse me. And then we also focus on character skills, manners, citizenship, all of those things that are people activities, social activities. We also have American Sign Language. All right. We also have a component of our curriculum that covers introductions to foundations of American Sign Language. And then we even have an age appropriate science curriculum that really covers how can I explore and understand my world. As mentioned many times before already, our social emotional learning curriculum is based on the tenets of self-awareness, self-management, and building cultural esteem. And then every week we have a family dance party because more than anything, learning and interaction with your child should be a bond building, memory making, strengthening experience, not something that ends in tears or frustration because we are having unrealistic expectations or unmatched expectations for their developmental level. So family dance parties give us a carefree, fun, culturally based opportunity to bond and make memories with our children, and not only with our own children, but in the space of this virtual village as we do them together. Now, let's talk about the quarter two Biddy Brain Box. So, as mentioned earlier, every quarter, every 3 months, we start a new focus theme, period. And in order to support the virtual delivery of these theme periods, we send a brain box to your house, a bitty brain box, and it will have all the materials that you need in order to conduct the exploration for that theme. So the quarter 2 theme is exploring our senses, and it is part 2 of that. We did 3 senses already, or we're rounding out our 3 senses in quarter 1. So by month, in March, we'll be talking about smell. In April, we're talking about taste, and in May, we'll be talking about the body. So by class, the Bitty Busy Blanket, which I'm going to show you in a moment, and there was a picture on the earlier slide, the Bitty Busy Blanket for the Navigators will include colors, fine motor skill activities, and shapes, and not just shapes of the mathematical geometric shapes, but also letter shapes and textures as well. So let me show you a mock-up of a bitty blanket for the Navigators program. So here you see what we saw in the picture earlier. We have activities that tie into each and every one of these components on the blanket. It is also replaceable. So every month you would either get an add, every quarter, you get an add-on to the activities on the quarter blanket. So for quarter 2, we'd be talking about the letter A, the letter B, the letter C, talking about triangles, circles, squares, and also talking about the colors. We have secondary and primary colors featured on this mat. So these are intentional. These also are intentional and experience-based. So we have 3 different textures to interact with here. We have the soft fur, the bumpy beads, and the rough, scratchy fabric. And then we have fine motor activities like zippers, buckles, and buttons. Make sure I can put that down. So that is just one component of what's included in the Bitty Busy Blanket. We also have manipulatives for each sensory exploration, like smell tubes that will feature savory scents like popcorn and floral scents like roses, as well as minty scents like peppermint. So we have lots of different sensory explorations for smell. And for taste, we also have a shopping list that will be provided to you and expected of each individual family to purchase because of the individual allergies that the children have. So we couldn't provide the food items as well as ship them in the mail. So you will get a shopping list. And then, as I showed you on the blanket, we have fine motor games. So they go beyond the blanket, but what's featured on the blanket are clips, buttons, and zippers. Now, who will be, let me actually go here. So the Navigators program quarter 2 begins March 1st, and it ends May 19th. It's 10 weeks, and it meets Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 to 10:45, and that's Eastern Standard Time. The price is $120 per month, and it is paid per quarter. So the price for quarter 2, is $360. And then the Bitty Brain Box, which includes the busy blanket that you just saw, as well as other materials such as finger colors, such as these, which again gives our children and our families interaction with the learning experience. And we have all the primary and secondary colors. So here I have a mixture of primary and secondary colors. We have those. We also have sandpaper letters so that children can start to interact with the shapes of the letters in a very sensory way, a very tactile way, and there's more. So the Bitty Brain Box includes that, the blanket, plus other activities that correspond to the sensory explorations for quarter 2, and that is at a cost of $100, which covers all the materials plus the shipping to your front door so that you have everything you need for quarter 2. Finally, we have 2 payment options. You can pay all at once, which would be $460, or you can pay in 2 installments of $240, which is due at the time of registration, or $220, which again, I'm sorry about this outdated date, but it will be due about 3 weeks before our first class. And that date will be updated for you in emails. Now, let me tell you about Mrs. D. Mrs. D is the mom of two biddies, Anais, who's 2 years old, and Elias, who's 10 months old. She lives in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and her experience is expansive. She was a preschool teacher for ages 2 and 3, a preschool director at 2 different locations, a curriculum writer for early childhood programs, and a grant writer. Her education is, again, expansive. Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education, a Master's of Arts in Leadership for Sustainable Communities, and she is a certified postpartum doula. And I am also here to personally tell you that learning never ends for Mrs. D. Even right now, she's still taking classes and still doing things to increase her knowledge base to better serve you and the families who she serves. So we are so grateful and honored to have Mrs. D. And without further ado, I'm going to pass the experience over to her so that you are aware of the gift that you have in Mrs. D. We stop the screen share.
All right, are you ready to play and learn together? I'm so excited to present our class for today, our materials that we will be using. When we start class, we will always go through the materials we'll be using. So I did send out a list. If you have some ice cubes, ice is a choking hazard for your biddy, so I just really encourage you to keep a close eye as we manipulate the ice, a washcloth, and 2 spoons. What are we gonna do with spoons today? 2 spoons. So as I am singing our welcome to the circle, I'm just going to encourage you to gather your materials and place yourself on the floor or somewhere nice and comfortable where you can be engaged with your little one. Welcome to the circle, the circle, the circle. Welcome to the circle to learn and play. Join me in the circle, the circle, the circle. Join me in the circle to learn and play. All right, so as Miss Jen mentioned, that this class is designed to be interactive. And as much as we desire for our little ones to be engaged, it is a 45-minute session. So I am very much aware that your biddy will lose interest at some point. They may crawl off, they may walk off. That is okay. I want you to stay engaged with me. Continue to do the activity, continue to listen out for the words that I am using, the conversations that I am having, and then also how to use the materials. So we always start our class off with some physical stimulation. So we are gonna get moving. So the first thing that we are gonna do, I'm gonna tilt my screen down. I'm going to encourage you, if your biddy is not quite walking yet or standing isolated, you can just go ahead and sit down on the floor with your legs stretched out. We're going to do a classic head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And what I love about this song that is very classic to all of our childhoods is that our biddies are using their listening ears to hear which body parts to touch. So that also means that they're learning about their bodies. And this is key for this age group. They're learning about their bodies and how they move. We have some that are crawling. We have some that are cruising along the sofa or along tables, and we have some that are already taking their steps and moving. So we are going to, if your biddy is not quite standing isolated, you can feel free to sit down and do head, shoulders, knees, and toes with them. But for those biddies that are walking, I want you to stand them up nice and tall and support them by their hips. And then you can help them as well and to do head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Let's go on 3. 1, 2, 3. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes, knees and toes. Eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes, knees and toes. Let's do that one more time. Ready? And you can stand biddy up if you need to. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes, knees and toes. Eyes and ears, mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. And we just always, you did it. You did it. We just always want to encourage physical movement and singing throughout our classes. This is a great way to develop language skills, social emotional learning, and developing coordination and rhythm. Grab your spoons. We're going to sing one more song. We are going to sing the alphabet song, and we're going to use our spoons as our instruments. And when we sing the ABC song, the alphabet song at NeuroNurture, we make sure that we slow down the rhythm when we do L, M, N, O, P. Because when we sing it really fast, we want to make sure that children know that those are isolated letters, that they're not grouped together. But just like A, B, and C, those are isolated letters. So we are going to sing the alphabet song on 3. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I know my ABCs. Next time, won't you sing with me? I could hear you singing, and I saw you moving your spoons with your little one. You did it. All right, we are going to transition from physical stimulation to sensory stimulation. And this is the key part of our learning in class. This age group for our navigators, they are learning through their senses. I mentioned earlier, they're learning all about their body. So for this activity, you're just going to take out one ice cube, okay? And before we use the washcloth, just have it close nearby. You're just going to let your bitty explore that ice cube, support them, let them hold it, let them touch it. And you're going to ask them, how does that feel? How does the ice feel? And then you are going to give them the words because they may not know yet. It's cold. Yes, the ice is cold. Can you say cold? And it's wet, slippery. So we are giving our little ones descriptive words as they explore the ice. Now I want you to take that ice cube, and their hands are all wet. Your hands are wet. So you can go ahead and let them rub their face. They can rub their hands together. They can clap and feel little splashes of water. They are experiencing water. They're experiencing and using their senses. So you're going to wrap that ice cube into a washcloth and hold it nice and tight. As I mentioned before, that this is a choking hazard for your little ones. So I just kind of like squeeze mine nice and tight so that they can't get their hands on it because they are crafty little ones and they will get it in their hands and into their mouth. So you want to hold it nice and tight. And I just want you to touch Biddy's cheek. And we're naming the body parts as we touch them. That's cold. What about their nose? That's cold. Yes. And we're watching to see Biddy's face. How are they responding to this sensory experience? If they startle, you want to back up, ease off a little bit, comfort. We will always say when Biddy is upset or they are scared, we want to connect and comfort with them. So if they get a little overwhelmed, that's okay. You can go ahead and take the ice off, and then you can use your hands or you can use their hands. So go ahead, touch their hands, right? Their different fingers, you can count their fingers, do their feet, touch their toes and count their toes, okay? All right, so that is just a little experience for sensory of how they can explore. One other thing that you can do which is a little more advanced concept, but I just want you to see the water dripping with the ice and making a little puddle. It's making a little puddle in my hand. That's another thing you can show Biddy. You can show them, look, the water, it's dripping. And after you get some water in your hands, again, rubbing your hands together and clapping your hand for Biddy so that they can explore and feel that water on their face and on their hands. And when we're talking about our hands and we're talking about our body parts, I want you to either name them or count them. So when we're doing hands, we're counting our fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You did it. You counted your fingers. So this is just a way to integrate all of the math foundations, the language and communication, science and exploring sensory in our body, and then even social and emotional. And we're going to get ready to close out our little demo class with another song as we say our goodbye. Did you have fun learning and play today? Did you have fun? Go ahead and snuggle up with your little one, and we're going to say, goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. I'm glad you came to play. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. I'm glad you came to play. Until next time.
And that is a sample, just a small portion of the experience you can expect in the Navigators class. And as Mrs. D said, that class is 45 minutes. And I just want to briefly circle back. I believe when I mentioned the article I spoke about earlier, I called it research. That is actually a review article. It wasn't research, it's a recap of different research pieces that were published by multiple labs across the country. Just wanted to circle back to that. So we thank you so much for your time today. If you have any questions or interest in the program, please email bittyandbuddy@gmail.com, and we will be happy to respond and schedule an interview with you or show you the enrollment documents or answer any questions or concerns that you might have about the program. We thank you for your time today, and we hope you join our virtual village and bring in your individuality. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.